Our top story this hour, the death toll due to coronavirus outbreak has surged to 250 with more than 110,000 positive cases under close observation in China. Health officials have also confirmed that more than 17,000 people are suspected of being infected in the country. In the latest, an Air India flight flew back from the first batch of stranded Indians from China, which is considered to be the epicenter of the deadly coronavirus outbreak. Medical camps have been set up in ITBP camps across North India, where these passengers are being kept in isolation wards for nearly 14 days. Chinese officials, meanwhile, have asked broadcasters to increase coverage and awareness programs detailing signs and symptoms of the virus. Fresh cases have also been reported from Spain and United Kingdom, where travel bans have been imposed for flights from Wuhan city, the epicenter of the outbreak. The government of Uzbekistan today, meanwhile, instructed the state airlines to ban flights from Hubei in China. It followed suit after Iran, United States, United Kingdom, Turkmenistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, amongst others, decided to stop all flights to and from Wuhan. Apple Inc., meanwhile, became one of the leading giants to have temporarily shut down stores in China. The government expects that more such giants are likely to exit or down their shutters for the time being. Meanwhile, the Air India has flown a second aircraft to rescue stranded Indians from the epicenter of the outbreak in China. The Air India crew also wore protective gear as a precautionary measure while dealing with passengers on board that aircraft, which flew down over 320 passengers from Wuhan to Delhi. The flight touched down at about 7:30 this morning. Joining me on the broadcast now is a very special guest, Shubham Pal, who is there at the epicenter of the outbreak, as it were, in China. Shubham, before I bring you in, I would also like to have a quick update. My colleague Sana Khan is also standing by with the latest coming in from the MEA. Now, Sana, to you first, the question that is that, the first flight, the Air India flight, has landed today morning in Delhi with about 324 passengers on board. The second flight has also left for Wuhan. What are you picking up? Isolation wards, we do know the under the Army's surveillance and guidance, isolation wards have been set up in Manesar and in other pockets of North India. Cases have now been reported, Sana, from Kerala. Cases have been kept under observation in Delhi, in Hyderabad and in Kolkata as well. As far as the MEA is concerned, any advisories coming out for Indians travelling abroad, or what's the message going out to Indians who might be trapped in other countries?
Well, no fresh advisories, but what India has done is moved very, very fast as far as evacuating its citizens who are stranded in China are concerned. And following India are other neighbors like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka who also made similar moves. We understand, as you correctly pointed out, 324 Indians, mostly students, have been brought back to India. There are 6 cases, 6 Indians who were suspected to be in contact with other patients of coronavirus. They've been left behind for the moment. The Chinese are taking care of them at the hospitals there. But out of those 324 people who are back, about 104 have been taken to ITBP camps. We do understand CDS General Bipin Rawat took stock of the situation. He visited one such camp to meet members. Some of those, the ones that didn't have to be kept at the camp have gone back to their homes, some to Kashmir, some to other states where they belong to. And another flight has left for Wuhan at about 1:37 p.m. This afternoon today to bring back more Indian students. We'll obviously, I'm speaking to my friends in China who are saying, as far as Shanghai is concerned, things are pretty normal. All the essential items are being sold at shops. Restaurants are open, but schools and offices are closed at least till the 10th of February. Some say that media is overplaying the reports, but we have to understand the situation is really very, very serious as far as Wuhan and the periphery of that whole province is concerned. But elsewhere, the Chinese have been able to control the situation, is my understanding, sort of.
Right. Sana, and in fact, while we discuss the situation on the ground in India, and we will focus more on that in just a bit, you also talked about what the ground situation is, at least that is what your friends are and your near ones are telling you from China. But let's also go across to Shubham Pal now at this juncture. Shubham, now help us understand, what the ground situation is in China. You are there, as it were, at the epicenter of the outbreak. We do know that the first batch of Indians have been evacuated by a special Air India flight from Wuhan. Shubham, take us through. What are you seeing around you in China?
Yeah, basically, I mean, there is, I can segment it into two segments. So one is Wuhan and Hubei province, where Wuhan is located. So that's the epicenter. And the Chinese government, the administration, they have locked down Wuhan and several other cities in Hubei province. So that's the place from where this virus originated and started spreading. And the rest of China is on high alert, and there have been checkings everywhere. The flights are, obviously departing from the airports in different cities. The bullet trains are also running. But the Chinese government is discouraging people from travel, because you have to understand this is a crucial time. This is the most, this is the biggest festival in Chinese calendar year, Lunar New Year. So that's why a lot of mobilities are there, and the largest human migration also takes place around this time. So the Spring Festival weeks, the holidays have been extended. Earlier it was extended till February the 2nd. Now it's been extended till February the 10th. So that's why the government is leaving no stone unturned to keep its citizens and everybody safe. Even some of the big cities where a lot of expats live, like Beijing, I'm living in Beijing, in Shanghai, the local authorities, they have opened helplines for the foreigners, for the expats. And most of the offices are closed, and the essential services are open, but the authorities are telling everybody, stay home, don't go out, and don't mingle with people, because they are trying to contain this epidemic. So that's why right now the situation is such that the Chinese government is doing everything on a war footing basis. And you can see people, in fact, in Beijing,
right.
As your reporter said, all the essentials are available. But in all the metro stations, almost 300 metro stations, there are thermal scanning devices, and people are wearing hazmat suits in some of the metro stations just to protect. Same situation is at the airport. So that's why the government is trying its best to contain it, because right now the number is 259, casualty number is 259. However, one positive thing is the number of recovered, discharged patients is just crossed the number of casualties. It's close to 260. They have been recovered already. So that's one bright spot in the entire situation.
Right, that's indeed a heartening piece of information that you just shared with us from Beijing. Shubham, I would also like to ask you, when you say that the government is working on a war footing, the epicenter of it all was Wuhan. Now, do we know exactly from where this spread? Has the government been able to identify the trigger point, as it were, which led to this massive outbreak, which has now taken epidemic proportions?
Yes, I mean, initially, last few days, if you see the report, of course, the Chinese government, they themselves, they said that there was a delay. And the mayor of Wuhan has already said that he failed to, his administration, his authorities failed to report to the central leadership at the right time. And so far, they have identified one seafood market. But the researchers, they are still, there are several reports, different reports, whether it's started from a bat, a species of bat, which was being sold there, or some snakes, or some other exotic animals, wild animals, which were being sold at the seafood market. But it's still been, it's still speculation. People haven't found the exact, source of this virus at this moment. But another thing is, because of the local, province, their delay, which the Chinese central government, they have already accepted, and they said that there was a delay. So, there was an event in which 40,000 people gathered in Wuhan for some potluck feast, which was meant for some Guinness Book of World Records contest. So that there, in January only, there were 40,000 people at a public event. So I think because of these reasons, and I think the local authority is to report it just in time, the virus spread across China. And another reason is, as I told earlier, this is the Spring festival is the most busiest season, and this is the #1 festival in Chinese calendar. So that's why a lot of people started moving out of Wuhan, started moving out of Hubei province. I mean, millions of people travel during this time. So that's the reason, in a lot of other places, the virus, people with, during the incubation
this is that time of the year, and it coincides with the Chinese New Year celebrations, where there is a lot of movement from one city to the other. Shubham, now, while researchers are still at work trying to identify the exact trigger point, and the government, the local administration in Wuhan has admitted that it failed in a way to pick up the warning signs, as it were, and report it to the central authority. The point is that, you are indoors, as you said, that there are thermal scanners that have been put up at the airports. There are masks. We see people in a panic mode going in for queuing up in front of medical stores, in front of provision stores. Videos coming in from China show us that. Now, how has normal life taken a hit following this outbreak? As you said, that the holidays, in a way, the holiday season, unfortunately, has now been extended till the 10th of February.
Yeah, now this is very crucial because, since the incubation period for this virus is 14 days, and a lot of people have already went to Wuhan, went to Hubei province, and they have interacted a lot of people who came from Wuhan. So that's why the next 10 days will be really crucial. So that's the reason the government locked down most of the places, like the officials are closed. And as I said, but one good thing about is the way China reacted to the situation. Because I can see here the amount of checking. Even I can tell you, the community, the apartment block where I am living, the authorities every day, they are using disinfectants to clean up the elevators and everything. And there is one security guard holding the thermal scanning device. And every time I go out and come in, they are checking my temperature. Not just me, every resident of this housing compound, they are being checked. So this is the case in Beijing, across Shanghai, across other big cities where there is a huge population. So that's one good thing about the administration and the preparedness. Right now, if you really see the kind of a number of hazmat suits, the thermal devices, that's incredible, the Chinese government, the way they are doing things on a war footing basis. But yes, of course, the next 10 days will be really crucial. So that's why the Chinese government and the schools are shut down for indefinitely. Most of the schools and colleges and universities. So that's why they don't want to take any chance. Even if somebody is coming back from Wuhan, maybe having the virus strain at this moment without being, there is no symptoms being shown, but still they are leaving no stone unturned. They are keeping, if anybody, and another thing I must tell you, there are a lot of foreigners who have been living in China. So the Chinese government is actually taking care of them. They have opened hotlines, and they are listing number of fever clinics, hospitals for foreigners. Even they have helplines in different languages, 6-7 different languages, so that expats from different countries can actually reach out to the helplines.
So they're reaching out to foreigners as well, foreigners who are there in China at this point in time, as you just pointed out, Shubham, but who are clearly, who have pressed the panic button. Just stay on with me. Let me go across to Sana once again. Sana, now we are talking of foreigners living there, and we are also talking about India's response to people coming in from countries which could also in a way be affected by the spread of the coronavirus, as it were, which started all the way from Wuhan. Now, Sana, what kind of precautionary measures are being adopted? We do know that the WHO has also waved the red flag when it comes to the coronavirus outbreak. You have been tracking it very closely. The MEA also maintaining a very, very close watch on the inflow of tourists to India, or the inflow of passengers coming into India. Any specific measures that have been adopted in coordination with WHO as far as India is concerned?
Well, we must keep in mind that the World Health Organization has recently warned the world of a local outbreak in their respective countries. So that has really put all these countries in a level of high alert. And Saurav, before I answer your question, out of the 259 deaths that we know of in China, there are more and more confirmed cases that are now coming to light, which range from various countries, now India, UAE, Sri Lanka, Singapore, Japan, Cambodia, and the highest number of confirmed cases after China, of course, which stands at more than 11,790 cases. You've got Taiwan with 10 cases, obviously much lesser than what the numbers are in China. Thailand with 19, Malaysia with 8, South Korea with 12, Singapore with 16, and Australia with 10. And what China and what these respective countries are doing is something what India is also doing. Some of those employees who work in the private sector, they choose to stay back. If they're not in Wuhan, they still say that the situation is pretty much under control. There are enough and more measures being put in place to contain the virus and to prevent its spread from other areas in China as well. So that's happening. We do understand that the UK, for instance, has withdrawn its staff from its embassy in Beijing. That's something very big. So more and more countries, there are flights that are being stopped. Qatar Airways just put out a tweet saying that all its flights to China, to and from China, have been suspended for an indefinite period. If the situation improves, of course, things will be back to normal. But these are the kind of measures that are being adopted. India, on its part, has moved very quickly in terms of getting those who, obviously the students mostly, who are stuck and who are studying in a place like Wuhan, which is also the epicenter, to bring them back as soon as possible, because they said the food supplies are running out. So the Indian embassy, the ME officials constantly in touch with their counterparts in China, and also speaking to the Chinese officials to say that, look, we want our Indian nationals to be sent back to the country. But still, as I pointed out, some Indian nationals are still there who are infected, who've been tested positive for coronavirus. So they will still have to stay back and take treatment over there. They're not going to come to India because the population, given the numbers over here back home, once it spreads, it's going to be a very, very difficult task to contain it.
Now, Sana, one quick word that as you mentioned that, the spread of the virus, so to say, and the countries from where these cases have now been reported, just not restricted to China anymore. We have had a case, and unfortunately, a casualty being reported from the southern state of Kerala as well. There are other cases also which are under observation in India. Now, going by the geography to which this virus has now spread or where symptoms are being seen, Sana, how is it impacting tourists? Inflow or passenger traffic, so to say, to these countries and from these countries as well?
All right. So as far as, tourism is concerned, I think it's going to have a major impact. We are not learning of the figures now, but over a matter of the next few weeks, I'm sure many countries are going to put out certain statistics to suggest that, look, these are the flights that were suspended during the outbreak, and this is the reduced number of tourists that have come into the country, or even people traveling for business, I might add at this point. Everybody is trying to avoid going to China, especially that's a country where people from all over the world have businesses in. It becomes imperative for them to constantly travel to China, from people in the far west to the Middle East to Southeast Asia. So in terms of that, I think we'll get the numbers soon. And I do think it's going to have a significant impact on people choosing to go to many, many countries for the purpose of tourism, because it's spread to more than 15, 16 countries now. So it's a serious threat, and it's going to have very serious economic implications as well.
Right. Sana, thank you so much for your inputs. But let me go back to Beijing once again. Shubham, now, we are talking of the implications, so to say, the cascading effect of this virus outbreak. As far as China's economy is concerned, on one hand, it's a health emergency like never before. On the other hand, we're talking of the preparedness of the government. But as far as this is concerned, how does it translate, or how does it impact China's economy per se?
It's massive. It's just massive, because a lot of factors, the domino effect is such, like not just China's economy. And as you were discussing with your correspondent about the tourism factor, China actually, they send most number of outbound tourists across the globe. And if you really see, even the local businesses right now shut down. Most of the, like as you say, as you can see, that Apple, Starbucks, all the MNCs, they have shut down their shop at this moment. And the local businesses also hit really hard. Another thing, China is going to host the Winter Olympics. Beijing will be the host for the 2022 Winter Olympics. And there is also Hangzhou is going to host the Asian Games. And there are a slew of sporting events all over China which are scheduled over the next few months and the next few years. So those events, some of the test events for the Winter Olympics are already postponed or cancelled at this moment. Even the Chinese Football League, Chinese Basketball League, which are actually money-spinning events here, those are already cancelled. So the impact on business, sports and other industries. Tourism is another big factor because a lot of airlines, they are like canceling their China-bound flights. That means there will be less number of tourists, and not just China, even those countries where tourism is the biggest industry, countries like Japan, which is going to play host to the Tokyo Olympics in a few months' time. That is also going to be a big impact. I mean, there may be an impact on that also because China always sends one of the largest contingent there, and the number of like spectators at any Olympic or any sporting events are mostly from China.
Right, as you very well explained, Shubham, the cascading effect, so to say, of the coronavirus outbreak, it isn't just a health emergency for China, it's an economic emergency also on multiple counts. But just as we wrap up this discussion, Shubham, just one quick question, that is, going by your experience of the preparedness, of the response of the Chinese authorities, and you are there in Beijing per se, how much time would it take roughly for China to come back to its normal self once again?
See, China, one thing, they are trying to use their experience during the SARS in 2003. They have learned from those experiences. So that's why I believe the next 10 days will be really crucial, because once the offices are open, the school and education institutions are open, then there will be like a large number of people gathering at one place. So that will be the time when we have to wait and watch how Chinese authorities can actually cut down the number of infected or suspected patients. So next 10 days will be really crucial, because 14 days incubation period is going to be over, and people will return to their like office places, their hometowns, and from other places. So that will be the time when we have to wait and watch. But I believe, in my opinion, there will be another 15 to 20 days, and maybe for Wuhan and Hubei province to recover may take a month
so as
or
you
more
say
than that.
Over the next 10 days, it's going to be very, very crucial how the Chinese authorities are able to contain the spread of the virus further, and what would be the global reaction as far as the other countries to which the coronavirus has now spread. That also remains to be seen. For sure, the virus, the outbreak from which can be traced to Wuhan, has now had global ramifications per se. It's a global emergency. It's a public health emergency, as the WHO says. Thank you so much, Shubham, for joining us all the way from Beijing. We wish luck as far as you are concerned and your near and dear ones, so that you stay safe, and we can only hope that everyone else around you also stays safe in China, and China comes back to normal once again. But I must conclude this special broadcast by saluting the national carrier Air India at a time when all airlines across the world are diverting their flights from China, are cancelling their operations to China, are putting their China operations to hold. The Maharaja rose up to the occasion once again and displayed its true colors. The Maharaja, flying high, flew down to Wuhan, landed in Wuhan with a crew which included 2 doctors and 2 engineers on board, and they brought back the passengers safe and sound to Delhi. Thanks for watching. Up next, our special show on the big story of the day, Budget 2020. Stay tuned.